Welcome to the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm Michelle Wright, your host and fellow traveler on this journey of self-discovery. This podcast is designed for women navigating life transitions and yearning to embrace their true selves. I'll be sharing my personal journey from navigating the complexities of divorce and blending families to reshaping my career to something that resonates with my soul. With 3 decades as a teacher and mentor, I'm here to share insights, heartfelt stories, and practical strategies. Together, we'll explore how to cultivate self-love and create the vibrant, fulfilling life you deserve. Join me each week as we dive deep into the art of living authentically. Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm Michelle Wright, your host, and I am so glad that you are here today. Today's episode is I don't want to be me. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling in your mind or said those words. Just, if only I could go through this life not being me. And it was in small ways when I was younger. It was, if only I wasn't me and I didn't look this way. All the different things that you looked like, you wished you were someone else. You would look at someone else and say, I wanted to be that. I just don't want to be me. I think what's surprising for me and what I want to break open today, part of the journey was even in my highest form of my career, and I'm remarried and things are going well. So you can imagine I am successful in my career. I am leading principals and schools and divisions forward within an educational setting. I am remarried to my best friend, to my soulmate, to someone who supports me and loves me and wants to help me grow. And I still look in the mirror at times and say, if only I weren't me. And some of that had to do with that niggling part of your mind after a conversation, after a presentation, after you do something and you're like, that was so dumb. I can't believe I did that. So it's that self-criticism that would come in. It's that piece of, if I could be anyone else but me, it would be great. And yet the irony was that you looked at me from the outside, you would have said, Michelle, you are knocking it out of the park. And people did. I was charismatic, kind, very effective at my job and the relationships I was building around me. But my inner landscape was struggling. My inner landscape was empty. And I think where I really started to move for me was because, so if this is at the height of my career, you can imagine I did have this. When I'm 15, when I'm 20, my first divorce, my second divorce as a single parent, like at all of those moments, you can imagine how deep and dark that feeling really, really was. And so if you can resonate with this, if you can understand those feelings of being in that shadow of yourself and that self-critical aspect of who you are, this episode is about how did I navigate past that and through that so that I'm in a place that I love myself. And I'm going to be honest, it is not every day of every moment. I am not this perfect person that navigates everything. I have swings, high and low. I have challenges. I have to work really hard to reframe the triggers that are happening for me instead of to me, or the relationships where there's conflict and crunchiness that it's happening for me, and really getting curious about that. So I struggle. I'm still on this journey, but 1,000% better. And why? One of the things that I needed to do, and I used the cards to do it, I needed to have an outside reflection of my soul. of who I was. And you know what the cards do? Is the cards, I love them because they're gentle and they're also fierce and direct. And at times it's what you need the most. So when you're in your most vulnerable, the cards speak in a way that is very nurturing and kind and help you know how to move forward by just evolving one step, one kind, cheering way at a time. It's still truth. It's just not direct, stark truth because it recognizes you're at a different place in your life in that moment, in that time. At other times, it just shakes its finger and says, "Are you kidding me? You need to change this girl right now." And, snip, snap, and it just tells you that. So who do I believe the card are speaking through the cards? This is where I say this. I say the cards are the divine, the source, the creator, God, universe, however you name that collective energy that my soul is tapped into and has been for all of millennia. There's also another aspect that your soul and the divine is here to guide us towards our highest potential. So these are some of the assumptions that I am making and I am working with. And I've spoken about it before, but what it surprises me is that as much as I'm going outside, this work is inside. It is at your heart, at your soul. Because the deepest work is self-love. The deepest work is being kind and compassionate. The deepest work is believing that you deserve wonderful things to happen in your life. And so there's lots of checks that happen. You have to start checking, well, if I believe that, what are some of the assumptions that I'm also working from and the voices? And that can come from childhood trauma. It can come from family groups. It can come from teachers and things they said to you. So one of them is, it has to be hard. Don't trust easy. If it's too good to be true, it is. So I can tell you when I vibrate highly with source and creator, and I can see the flow and I tap into that beautiful energy of love and kindness and joy. I'm like, really? Is this what this is? Because it's not hard when I'm in this space. And so then I would kick myself out of that space because I'm like, okay, if it's not hard, the logic brain would come in. If it's not hard, then is it true? Is it really happening? So I recognize those voices that would also be in the background playing in my mind. And I had to really sift through them and ask myself, right? Do I believe that I deserve abundance? Do I believe that I deserve love? Do I believe that I'm able to do this? Right? And just, what are some of the voices from my parents, from the rest of my family, from my leaders? What are the things that have been coming through and perhaps knocking me off? Where am I finding that flow, that glow, and that ease? And what does that look like? And so for me, I did find it with the cards. I found the cards helped me then set up a space. And within that space, I had quiet time for myself. And then I started journaling. And my journaling was not, oh, I did this today. My journaling was just literally automatic writing. I would just write every feeling down. It didn't matter. I just wrote everything down and what it might be and any insights I was getting, any intuitive hits. And I started to listen to me, my body, my emotions. I started listening to me just as much as I listened to everybody else outside of me. And that's where I recognized I was really hard on myself. I have high expectations, high standards, and I was not meeting them. And I needed to just suck it up, buttercup. I needed to move on. And do you know how many other people I've sat and held and said, No, be present for your feelings. Do not emotionally bypass this feeling, this experience, this moment for yourself. Be present. Allow yourself to process it, heal it, and then let it go. I did that for other people, and I had a hard time doing it for myself. So through the cards, I started. Which parts, like, you can just feel it. I feel it in my heart. I feel it, and it's like, yep, that's it. That's the understanding. So that's my clairsentience, and then my claircognizant. I just have a sense of knowing this is what it's about. The cards were asking me to be compassionate with myself. The cards were often, I would pull a trickster card from the shaman deck. So when you do pull it, I do believe it is divine intervention. And I would get the trickster. And so it's like what you're thinking and feeling is not true. There's some trickster energy. And so I'd be thinking outside, oh, well, people are tricking me from the outside. So when they're giving me a compliment, it's not true, right? Because you can see how your mind does that. And that's what would happen is I would have this narrative that would obliterate all positives about me because I had high standards. I needed to work hard. I needed to be hard. And I wasn't embracing and loving who I was. So the cards started getting me to shift. Astrology was another way, taking an astrology course, starting to understand my natal chart, how I was designed to come into this world. And astrology looks from an archetypal perspective about your life. You can see yourself in there. The highest version, the high vibing, and the low vibing. And I started to remember who I was, not just in my shadow, but I started to remember who I was in my light. I was able to then go back to the shadow bits of myself and see them truthfully and love them as well. Because I am both. I am duality. We all are duality. We have divine masculine, divine feminine. We are happy. We are sad. And it is this understanding that one is not inherently better than the other. They are both helping us move towards the goal of our highest potential, our most authentic life. Human design is another modality I used. And it spoke about understanding who I was from an energy type and how I made decisions and my authority, and it was different from other people. And understanding where my energy was. So when I have anger, I'm not in myself. I'm not aligned. Something is out of whack. And so rather than berating myself at that point, I need to be curious. What isn't in alignment for me and why? And then through human design, looking at my conditioning, all of the shoulds from the different paradigms that I've worked in, from schools, from churches, from the patriarchy, from just Western society, just exploring and allowing the truth not to always be a capital T truth, but to move it into a lower T truth and be curious and explore and expand. Did it connect and align with my truth for myself? Feeling my love of self, which then allowed me to look, what is the lower vibration of myself through human design? And exploring that with kindness and compassion, because that's being honest where you're at. And then from human design, gene keys are the gates within there. So they kind of tie together. And Gene Keys by Richard Rudd is also this other one I've just gotten into more deeply. And it is very contemplative. It's not just like, oh, there you are. All of them are similar in that they're archetypes. They get you to think of things in a big way. And then they get you to connect on how you're experiencing this as you, this unique human on Earth. And through the Gene Keys, there were some very key points that I recognized And I could see there's one, I can't actually remember the number right now, but seriousness is the shadow. And acceptance is the gift. And I could see my entire life, I've sat so much in the shadow with myself, in seriousness about myself and what I do, and if I said it right, or if I did it right, and just that critical aspect. And it moves up into acceptance. Actually, from seriousness, it moves to delight. It's recognizing that there needs to be more joy, more happiness. Don't take everything so serious. Yes, everything we're doing matters. But there's redos, there's do agains. You can start this again. You can retry. The next day is another opportunity to evolve and expand. So from seriousness to delight. And I started looking, where is the delight in my life? And as soon as you start looking for something, you start seeing it. So seeing the delight, seeing the joy. Oh, I love doing cards. I love doing astrology. I love doing human design. I love being in my rock room. I love speaking as a manifester and doing podcasts and YouTubes. I love pulling coffee and cards. I love serving and helping other women go down this path that I've just been down. I just love this. And that's the delight. That's where you find it. And another gene key was constriction, and then moving into acceptance. And I can tell you, for me, what that means is I know I am constricted, and it comes around control. I am so constricted in my life, it has impacted my digestive system. And now that's my biggest red flag. As soon as my digestive system goes, I know I am so constricted, so tied to fear, anxiety, and control instead of acceptance. And acceptance moves into that piece of the dualities. It's all good. Even when it goes wrong, it's good. And so what's so funny about that is when you do all the work in education and it talks about the growth mindset, it's like, I haven't done that yet. So what we know about our mind is that we actually learn more from failing than we do by actually doing it right. Let me say that again. We learn more. Our brain is hardwired to learn more from failure than getting it right. And yet, failure is not an option in our culture. Our culture has set up that we need to do it right. There's a right way to live, a right way so you can get 100%, you can get your job. So it's this evaluative process. You can see it in education. You can see it in our work. You can see it in all the award shows. It's just embedded within there. And yet our brain, from the science of our brain, we're not meant to do that. And I taught that and I worked with that, is to help teachers, help students understand the power of not yet. So you're just not there yet. We're always works in progress, and that's our life. Our souls are in this same not yet. We're meant to learn from the shadow, from not doing it right, from the pain, to move into the joy, to be the phoenix that has fallen and then rise from the ashes. This is the experience that we've come here to have. And when you awaken to this experience and you start to recognize and start to dive in to these more deeply for yourself, acceptance comes in. Acceptance that actually every experience is for you, every single one. So delight in it. Find the curiosity. And that doesn't mean, because there are some really challenging and horrible things that happen in our lives. So you first need to deal with that and deal with the emotions and the honesty of it. The honesty of loss, of grief, of trauma. You need to deal with that first. And then part of your healing journey, when it's appropriate, is to move into, what am I learning from this? Is that it really is about coming to loving my shadow, loving my light, loving both versions of it, loving my life in all of its fullness, all of its failures and all of its successes, and being honest when I'm in my shadow and not calling it truth, but calling it my shadow, and recognizing that this is an opportunity within this shadow to heal and release and be honest with myself about why it's here and what I can create. The different modalities have helped me remember who I am. They've given me pathways forward. Throughout that, I have had numerous professional readings from people, from tarot readers, from numerology readers, from human design readers, astrology readers. I do it myself, but I love getting a reading from someone else. They just so clearly see you and just start speaking, and you can start to just resonate with what they say. So that's been another way that it's helped me. And I've gone back because you know what? They are not ashamed of my shadow. They just speak about it as something that's normal, something that's just there. So recognize if you're in your low vibe, your shadow, and recognize when you're in the highest version of this. It's like, oh, okay. There's no judgment. There's no shame. But when I read at times for myself, I have to watch my judgment and my shame. So that's where I find getting outside readings can be so helpful. So in this 2026, we know we have lots of different astrology that's going to be happening. And on that note, on January 25th, 2026 in the afternoon, I am going to be having a free workshop. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes below, and I invite you to join me. We're going to look at the big aspects of astrology that are coming in 2026. And we're also going to use the cards and look at the energy 1 month at a time. So I invite you to come in and see how it resonates for you. And if you can't come in real time, know that I will send you the video so you can look at it at your leisure when you have time to do so. I want us to also think about creating who we are. So I've talked about different modalities, different ways that I have gone through. And now it's moving into another modality. I don't know if it's so much a modality, but a way of moving, and it's manifesting. It's this idea of moving to where you want to go. Now, in my business life, in my career life, I would have had plans. We would have measured them. We would have had goals, yearly goals, 5-year goals. We would just have gone through. And it's January, so often we've set up goals, things that we want to do. I did my 13 wishes. And so these are things that I'm trying to bring into fruition in 2026. They're kind of my compass, my charter as we're going and moving along. And manifesting is now at an energetic level. And it's looking at what we're bringing in and how we're bringing it. And working with, I'm in an abundance course with Christy Yale at This Sacred Life. Beautiful mentor and teacher. And she talked about just one statement really aligned for me. It says, we don't get what we deserve. We get what we create. So the deserving part, that is a nod to all the different evaluative processes. We have been taught to believe that we're going to get what we deserve from school, from work, from our award shows. You work hard, you're going to get this. You don't work hard, you're going to not get that. So it really challenges that idea. So it's saying it's not about deserving. It's not about did you do it the right way. It's about creating. So it's looking at us, each individual, as a creator. Julie Poole looks at this exact same thing as she looks at manifesting from an energetic perspective. And how are we energetically living in this now, this moment, this right now, creating the future that we want? One of the exercises we did was to think of yourself. So if you close your eyes in this guided visualization, think of yourself 2 years from now. And you have your goals, you have your intentions, you have things that you want to do. So 2 years from now, that version of you is embodying that. I want you to think about their energy, what they look like, what they sound like, where they are, what they're doing. What's their day-to-day? How did they get there? And I want you to imagine that they stand up and walk towards a door. And they open up this door. And it's to you right now. This version of yourself in this moment. In this visualization. What is your future self saying to you? What is she describing? What is she saying is important? What is she saying is not important? What are her words of wisdom? You might want to pause this and write some of those down. These exercises of going through time are important. You can do the same talking to a version of yourself 2 years before. And hindsight is 2020. What have you learned? What was important? What was not important? So you can start to see what's important, what's not important. When we look behind us, it's so clear. This guided visualization that you can do for yourself in the future version of who you are is really getting you to connect with that future energy. And to bring that into the now, you embody and you create and you hold the energy for that future version of yourself. Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being You. That he gives another way of doing that. It's the same process of going to the future and holding this future and holding it in your actions and choices and energy of today. Because it's not what we deserve, it's what we create. How do you create the new? It's by having the energy of the new and bringing it in. And that is hard. Because the energy of the new means that you have to love yourself enough to allow that energy to exist, which is why I talked about the shadow and the light. When I first met my husband, the readings to get to my husband, it was the reader would say to me, okay, Michelle, you have to believe that love is possible. So can you imagine? Here I was trying to call in a person for myself, but I actually didn't believe that there was someone out there that could be a partner with me. I did not actually believe it. So I had to work on that. I had to work on that I, Michelle, was deserving of having a life partner that loved me, treated me well, and brought just as much to the table as I did. That's what I was looking for. And I was looking for a traveler. I knew at that point in my life, because I was meeting him later in life at 42, that I wanted to travel. In my retirement, wanted to travel and do things. So you see us now, that's what we're doing. But in the beginning, I had to do the inner work to allow that to happen. Some other things she talked about that I had to change the energy around was she said, Michelle, you have been a single mom working hard, stepping up to the plate, working at your career. She says, you have your sword out. Your divine masculine is there. You are a doer. And within that doing, you are going. I need you to put your sword down. And I'm like, what? Put my sword down? I don't know. Nope. I'm a controller. I do and create what I want in my life. This brings up the other point. This is co-creation with spirit. We want to co-create what's coming in from the universe in the future. So I have to put down my sword and I have to embrace the divine, feminine, the softer sides of myself, my emotion, my self-love, that I'm worthy of love, and that I can easily receive abundance from the universe, in relationships, in my work. I can easily receive it. And my life is filled with that. That's the energy I'm trying to create. That was hard to keep that. 10 years. That's how long it took me. 10 years. And I had a lot of baggage to sort through. Not everybody has to have 10 years. We talk about quantum leaps. For some people, they're able to make these leaps and these shifts so much easier. Me, it took 10 years. Some of it was I wasn't being honest with myself. I didn't do the work. I didn't awaken to the idea that I actually had to love myself, which is why if I could have been anyone else but me, and I had to love that I was Michelle. From my natal chart, from my human design, from my gene keys, my DNA, from what the cards celebrated in me and told me to work on. And I needed to love that I was living this life and I was present in this life and creating another version of my life with a partner, and that I deserved it. And to call it in and to bring it in. And I did that. And it was hard. I'm going to tell you that when I go back to the moments of it, I can tell you so many. So when we do this work, it's not like one and done. Okay, I did that. Check. Done. Nope. I needed to continue to come back to, I love myself. This is happening. And remember, I started by saying, and then I got to a different version of myself that I had a hard time dealing with. But the version that was healed in that I didn't want to be myself was that I had opened up to the loving partner. And I couldn't believe that people go through life with another human so close, so supportive, so loving. They still frustrate you. I'm human. Get you upset, But in the end, they are there with you. That version, when I talk about from the beginning, was a version of myself that I didn't want to be. And it was about my career. And I was shifting and I was changing. And I was actively creating something else in my life. And I had to let it go because I couldn't have both. And I recognized it wasn't, my compass had changed. I was moving in a different direction and creating something else. And that surprised me. And I always want the universe just to have it really easy, like give me the 80 million so that I can make all these changes and do everything really easy. And you hear stories about people who win 80 million and it's actually not that easy because wherever you go, there you are. You bring yourself with you. So for yourself, do you wish that you weren't who you were? Do you wish you weren't who you are? And can you create a future for yourself where you fall deeply in love with you? And you open yourself up to easily receive the abundance of the universe and co-create with universe and start to be less serious, start to be less constricted. And you have a wider acceptance of what's happening in your life. And you're curious about it and delighted about how you can move forward. Co-creating, expanding, exploring, being curious. And recognizing that it's this spiral process. We keep coming back to similar themes in our life. We keep coming back to similar challenges. And it's just clearing them away. It's inviting you to fall deeply in love with yourself through them. And I find my spirit team often will just be very clear with me and they will joke with me. And what I mean by that, I'm like, challenging relationship. I will be a partner with anyone, please. This is my prayer. Please, that person, it's a real challenging relationship and I'm having a hard time. Do you know who I get partnered with? The challenging relationship. Yep. I'm like, really, spirit team, really? And it's like, yeah, really, Michelle. This is the acceptance. This is the seriousness, moving into delight, moving from constriction into acceptance. This is you moving and recognizing that you can have fun and it can work out and you can do this. This is not about taking out all the hardship because that's not what co-creating means. Co-creating means seeing the shadows and the light and having them move together and seeing how important the two of them are together to co-create the most beauty that can exist. And that's your journey. This is our life, our one life that we're living in such time that just ticks along. And if you find you're at a karmic point in your life, there's a cycle of karmic completion happening, and you're looking for guidance, come get a reading. Come work with me in mentorship. That's what I'm good at, is using the cards, listening, and getting divine and just divine knowing of how you can move forward in honest conversations with your heart, your soul, my heart, my soul, and co-creating that with the divine. One client the other day just said, "But this is so hard." And I said, "Yes, it is. Doesn't that suck? This work is hard. I just wish I had the easy button." But it's worthwhile work. Because you know what? There are more times right now that I look in my mirror and I say, "Michelle, I love you just the way you are. The way you look, the way you act, your essence, the way you are with other people. I love you just the way you are." And I practice looking in the mirror, and it's getting easier and easier to do it. And it can for you too. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to work with you. So as we come to the close, if you haven't, please like this video. Please like this on whatever platform you're listening to it. Connect with me on my Instagram at michellewright.co. Start exploring in my free spaces, coffee and cards. What does your soul want you to know? Start connecting with me in these spaces and start playing with how you can co-create the new version of you that you want to bring into being. If you know someone who could benefit from listening to this, share it with them. Let them know there's hope. Let them know they too can look in the mirror and start saying, "I love you. You deserve abundance easily. You deserve to co-create a beautiful, joy-filled, authentic life." Until next time, my dear sweet souls, keep listening to your own soul. That wraps up another episode of the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm so grateful you chose to spend this time with me. As you navigate your own life transitions, remember to be gentle with yourself and embrace the journey. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share it with others who might benefit. Join me next week for more insights and inspiration. Until next time, keep leading with your soul.